While we wait for our first contestant to get mic'd up, Chief Judge, earlier this evening I presented you with a sealed envelope containing tonight's question. Do you certify that you still have that in your possession and it remains sealed?
I do, and it is still sealed.
I will take that envelope from you now.
If I may make a comment, we're doing something different on this contest that we don't normally do. The contestants that are in the room, which we call the green room, their cell phones have been taken away from them. So there's no possibility of somebody texting the question to one of the contestants. I know from personal experience at the international convention, when I was told to go into the green room, there was a representative world headquarters said, give us your cell phones, because I had to go through this at the candidate showcase as running for international director. So we're doing the same thing for this contest.
Thank you very much. And that does serve as a reminder as well, please, if you have a cell phone on your person, at least silence it or turn it off so that we can try to eliminate as many distractions as possible. I'd like to introduce now Mr. Dan Lockett. Our table topic discussion tonight is, if you could take a train ride with anyone, who would you go with and where would you go? If you could take a train ride with anyone, who would you go with and where would you go? Dan Lockett.
In all sincerity, I'm speaking from my heart, I would ride with Jesus back to Gethsemane, and I would see what he went through at Golgotha's Hill, and I would realize that he died for me. And he could show me then the way to the cross was the way for me to be living forever with him. When I think of the cross, it moves me now. The nails in his hands, his bleeding brow. When I think of the cross, it moves me now. You see, it should have been me. It should have been me. But instead, I am free. I am free. He put an end to my guilt and despair. He turned bitter hating to sweet peace of love. And even the men that put him up there were offered forgiveness and life from above. When I think of that cross, it moves me now. The nails in his hands, his bleeding brow. When I think of the cross, it moves me now. For you see, it should have been me. It should have been me. But instead, I am free. I am free. I will travel with Jesus to Golgotha. Thank you.
Kathy Babis.
Mr. Contest Master, fellow Toastmasters, welcome guests. This is going to be a fun one. I would go on a train ride with George Clooney on the Orient Express because it's a nice long ride and I would have him trapped into myself. And I have a special connection with George Clooney because I grew up in Cincinnati, Ohio, which is his mother and father's, Nick Clooney and Rosemary Clooney's, hometown. And I grew up watching them host a talk show. And George is a little younger than me, but that doesn't matter, because I have been called, I think, what is the name? A cougar. And I am looking for that special someone, and I could be George's special someone if only he had a chance to spend several days with me on the Orient Express. And we would have a very special cabin. That cabin would have sleeping quarters. It would have first-class tickets, the best meals. I would be in heaven. I don't know where George would be, but I would definitely be in heaven. And George Clooney, as you know, also has a connection to St. Louis. So we have lots to talk about. His St. Louis connection is that his Up in the Air movie was filmed at Afton High School, where my children went to school. So George and I would have a great time on the Orient Express. Mr. Contest Master.
Jeannie Thompson.
Wow. Mr. Table Topics Master, fellow Toastmasters, honored guest. I say wow because there are so many people that I would love to have dinner with, much less take a train ride and go anywhere I want to go. What a question. It's loaded. So it would have to be someone that would be very inspirational, someone who would be older than me, because I love the wisdom of people who are just a little bit older than me, because they can mentor you and help you to help other people, because that's why we get the gifts that we have. We get our gifts and talents, and we're supposed to develop them to help other people. That's what it's all about. It's not to be all self-absorbed and all for yourself. It's to help other people. So who can I think of that would be able to do that for me? There's so many of them, and so many of them that have passed on. I loved to hear Zig Ziglar. So if it was just a year ago you would ask me this question, I'd say him. So maybe Mr. Maxwell, the one that he referred to, that the keynote speaker referred to in his speech, probably him. I love his books. I love his teaching. I could get those more leadership skills and be able to help other people and actually become a better best self myself as well. Thank you.
Ahmed Anuku.
Can you all imagine traveling thousands of miles away to a land where you yourself are in the middle of nowhere, and you meet various kinds of people? You meet the hilarious ones, you meet the mean ones. But I was lucky to meet someone very good, who unfortunately caught me in the middle of work and said, "Hey man, where are you from?" I went, "Africa." "What? What in the world are you doing in Blytheville, Arkansas?" I smiled. Because in my mind, that was the easiest question I'd ever had. Then I gave her the short story of how I got into the canoe from Nigeria, and unfortunately, it got stuck in the middle of the Mississippi River. With that, I realized the only person that I want to travel with is my mother, because she has been there for me right from the onset till this moment in my life. You know why? Because she had had me in her womb for 9 months, and when I thought about that other lady, I said, no, my mom will not think like that. I want to take my mom into a train ride from Nigeria to the US. That is, if we do get that. If you're confused by what I just said, don't mind my language. The only reason is because my dad is a Nigerian, my mom is a Chinese, and that is why I spoke Chinglish. Thank you very much.
Kevin DeRogers.
Mr. Contest Master, fellow Toastmasters, most welcome guests. If I could take a train ride anywhere, first of all, it would be across this beautiful land, the United States. And I would take it with my children. Because when I worked and they were young, I had to miss sporting events, ballets, recitals, because I felt it was more important to work and make a good life for my family than to spend time with my family. And I wish, if I could correct anything in my life, I could spend more time with my children. And I know one time we did a vacation where we went the northern route across the United States, came back to southern route, and we hit several national parks. But it was still rushed, and I still worried about work. I would love to have that time, now that my children are grown, and take a train ride through some of the glorious national parks that we have. Spend quality time with them, and make up for some of the lost time I had for the things I missed. I may never recover those days with them, but I can sure as heck go forward, spend more quality time with my children. Because that's one thing I learned a long time ago. Like I said, I thought I was doing the right thing to help my family. But in essence, I can get another job, no matter how often I thought it was hard to make ends meet. We found a way to do it, no matter how little or how much you make. So for me, it's not going to make up for the lost time, but it will move forward, and I will get to see this glorious land with my children. Mr. Contest Master.
Our third place goes to Dan Lockett.
What do you want?
One more. I'll get a little closer. There we go. Got it. Thank you.
Congratulations. Our second place goes to Kathy Babas. Gus.
Got
All
it.
right. And our first place goes to Kevin DeRogers.